Guys, have you ever wondered what makes someone drop everything and travel across the world just to drink coconut water on a paradise beach? Yeah, I've wondered that too. Is it that adventurous spirit? A deep desire for self-discovery, or just a desperate need to escape the European cold and the office routine? Well, for the travelers we met in Thailand, the answer is a mix of all that and a little bit of I just can't stand my old life anymore. And that's what you're about to find out, and much more. It seems like Thailand has become the promised land for frozen Europeans, kind of a climate refuge for those who wake up and have to dig their car out of the snow before going to work. As one traveler from Germany said, in winter, my country is cold and dark. I wanted sun, beaches, and warmth. Simple and to the point. After all, who wouldn't trade a heavy wool coat in freezing temperatures for a bikini and 90 degrees in the shade? A pair of Swedish women were even more honest. Sweden is covered in snow right now, so we decided to escape to somewhere warm. And here's something funny, when we asked about the weather in Thailand, the answer was almost always way too hot. In other words, everyone tries to escape the cold, but forgets that the other extreme can be a challenge too. If there's one thing we've learned here, it's that many tourists aren't just on vacation, they're on a spiritual journey. But hold on, it's not exactly that kind of retreat with Buddhist monks, although some do try. It's more about taking a look at life, reflecting, and coming to your own conclusions. You know what? I'm going to give myself time for all of that. That was the case for this German traveler who worked with children. I quit my job as a physical therapist because I didn't want to be stuck in a 9-hour-a-day routine. And then there's this other one who didn't hesitate when it was time to leave. I finished university and didn't want to start working right away, so I decided to explore the world first. You know that feeling of having spent your whole life studying, earning a degree, and then suddenly realizing you don't want to spend the next 40 years inside an office? Yeah, that's it. But not everyone came to Thailand just to find themselves. Some people came because, well, work is work, right? The actress and model from Argentina, for example, came here for work and took the opportunity to have some fun. I'm an actress and a model. I came to Thailand for work, but I took the chance to get to know the country. In other words, she works while traveling. Meanwhile, we work so we can travel. Life's unfair, isn't it? And there are also those who come here to study. Like this university student from Belgium who's living in Bangkok. I'm studying business in Bangkok. I came to experience another culture and live something different. In other words, she traded the gray winter and crowded buses to college for a city full of temples, beaches, and cheap street food. Questionable decision? Not at all. And you, what would you do? After hearing so many stories, you can't help but wonder, if we also dropped everything and ran off to a tropical paradise, would we become citizens of the world where just people lost without a career plan? Well, these travelers went with the first option, and by the looks of it, they're loving it. But hold on, there's still a lot more to come. I'm still going to tell you about the culture shocks these adventurers faced. Because it's not just about arriving in Thailand and greeting everyone with a UAI. There are rules here, and some tricks that nobody tells you about. You know when you arrive in a new place and suddenly realize that some things are so different that your brain takes a few seconds to process it? That's right. Thailand is one of those places where everything is amazing, but there are also some tricks that nobody warns you about beforehand. On one hand, you have paradise beaches, cheap food, and people smiling all the time. On the other hand, there's traffic that looks like a scene from an action movie, spices that test your limits, and little details that make any tourist wonder, what is going on here? If you come from a country where everyone pretends the other doesn't exist on public transportation, Thailand might feel like another planet. Everyone here is incredibly friendly, helpful, and always smiling. A tourist from Germany summed up this feeling well. People here are always smiling. It feels like everyone loves life. Now, if you come from a country where even saying good morning to a stranger is weird, it might be even harder to understand. As a traveler from Estonia said, here, everyone greets you and chats, but in Estonia, if a stranger talks to you on the street, you find it strange and want to run away. Thailand is basically the opposite of many places in Europe, where the idea of friendliness for no reason isn't exactly a local custom. Here, you might get stopped on the street just because someone wants to chat, and that scene is totally normal. If you think crossing the street in your city is already a challenge, welcome to the real test of reflexes. Traffic in Thailand operates in a parallel universe, where rules seem to be just suggestions and motorcycles carry everything from entire families to loads you'd only believe if you saw them. A traveler from Finland described his first experience trying to cross the street. I stood there for about 10 minutes trying to figure out how to cross. Nobody stops. Meanwhile, a Norwegian tourist quickly realized that kindness in traffic isn't very common around here. In Norway, cars always stop for pedestrians. Here, you have to throw yourself into the street and hope for the best. If you want to get around without suffering, the best option is to rent a motorcycle. But you'd better be prepared, because Thais ride as if they're running away from something invisible. Thai food is some of the best in the world. It's fresh, full of flavor, and incredibly cheap. But there's a detail nobody tells you before you take your first bite. The chili here is no joke. A German tourist found this out the hard way. I love Thai food, but at first it was hard to handle the spice. A French traveler even thought she needed help. The first time I ate something spicy here, I thought I'd have to call emergency services. The problem is that even if you ask for something mildly spicy, you might still end up sweating like you just ran a marathon. The good news is that for those who like to save money, Thailand is a paradise. A tourist from Sweden was amazed by the prices. The prices are incredible. You can eat well while spending very little. On the other hand, if you fall into the tourist restaurant trap, you might end up paying prices almost as high as in Europe. The tip here is to eat where the locals eat. That way, you avoid paying a lot for a dish that probably isn't even as good as the one from the street stall on the corner. Thailand can be ridiculously cheap or surprisingly expensive, depending on how you travel. A traveler from Lithuania realized this quickly. It's cheaper here than in Lithuania, but if you go to tourist spots, the prices are the same as in Europe. The rule is simple. If you want to save money, you need to avoid places made for tourists. At the end of the day, Thailand is like any other tourist destination. If you want to eat pizza and stay in expensive hotels, you'll pay the same as you would anywhere else. But if you know where to go, you can live like a king while spending very little. Besides the big cultural differences, there are always those little things that no one expects until they happen. Most tourists don't mind geckos until they realize the geckos are inside their room. A traveler from Lithuania didn't hide her shock. The little lizards inside the room, normal, but I'm still trying to get over the scare. Many tourists walk into the bathroom for the first time and realize there's no toilet paper, just a little hose. That's exactly what happened to a tourist from Belgium. The first bathroom I went into didn't have any toilet paper, just a little hose. I had to improvise. In Thailand, saying yes doesn't necessarily mean the answer is actually yes. A British tourist had this experience. I asked a Thai person if the bus stopped there and he smiled and said yes, but it never came. Later I learned that saying yes can mean anything here. This polite way Thais have of never wanting to say no can be confusing for tourists who are used to direct answers. After a few days in Thailand, most tourists have already learned to cross the street without hesitation, accepted that spicy food is here to stay, and understood that a smile can mean many things. The culture shock can be intense, but it's all part of the experience. And if you think that's already a lot, just wait until you hear about the Paradise Islands and travelers' favorite destinations coming up next, because tourists in Thailand don't just live on surprises. There are also those postcard-perfect landscapes that make everything worth it. If there's one thing everyone expects from Thailand, it's that movie-worthy scene: white sand, turquoise blue water, and palm trees swaying in the breeze. But in reality, not everything is that Instagrammable. Sometimes you're there, ready to snap the perfect photo, and you find out you have to share the view with 100 other tourists, a noisy boat, and an improvised soundtrack of engines and street vendors. But don't worry, because travelers who've been here have shared their honest opinions about the places they loved the most, and also those that were a bit disappointing. If you've ever seen a photo of a paradise beach and thought, "I have to go to that place," there's a good chance it was Koh Phi Phi. It's that dream island that, in real life, has two sides, one that looks like a postcard, and another that feels like a crowded festival. A traveler from Germany was amazed. Koh Phi Phi is surreal. The water is turquoise blue and there are no cars there. But not everyone enjoyed it that much. Another traveler made it clear that not everything is perfect, or rather, not all the beaches are that peaceful. Maya Bay is beautiful, but it was packed with tourists. Said a tourist from Argentina. In other words, your experience can range from a tropical paradise to a weekend shopping mall, depending on the day and your patience. If your idea of a perfect trip includes swimming with colorful fish and feeling like Jacques Cousteau himself, Koh Tao might be your place. This island is one of the best diving spots in the world, and it's also a haven for those looking to escape the chaos of the more popular islands. A traveler from France had no doubts when it came to choosing her favorite. My favorite island was Koh Tao, because it's perfect for diving. In other words, if you want to see corals, fish, and maybe even a little shark. Don't worry, they're small and harmless, at least that's what they say. This is the right destination. Now, if you prefer a place with more action, Koh Tao might be a bit too quiet for your taste. So let's move on to the next option. If Koh Tao is for those who want to relax and watch the fish, Koh Phangan is for those who want a party. This is the island of the legendary Full Moon Party, an event where thousands of people dance on the beach covered in neon paint, drinking buckets of questionable alcohol, and making questionable decisions that lead to great stories and some colossal hangovers. A German tourist summed up the spirit of the place well: if you want a little more action, Koh Phangan is perfect for partying and meeting new people. Now, if you're the type who goes to bed early and likes peace and quiet, this might not be the best option. But if your idea is to dance on the sand until the sun comes up, this is the right place. If you like beaches but also enjoy a good adventure, Railay Beach might be the perfect choice. Besides the crystal clear waters, this place is known for its giant cliffs, which are perfect for climbers. A traveler from Estonia fell in love with the scenery. I climbed Dragon Crest Mountain before sunrise, and it was the most beautiful view of my life. But beyond the mountains and the sea, Railay Beach has a detail that a lot of people forget to mention: the monkeys. They're small, cute, and experts at stealing things. If you let your guard down, they'll steal your snack, your sunglasses, and depending on how distracted you are, even your dignity, if you know what I mean. Oh, and it's best not to let them get too close, because many tourists end up getting bitten. Recently, a Brazilian tourist reported that she spent over 4,000 reais on treatment after being bitten by a monkey. That amount included the administration of anti-rabies immunoglobulin, which speeds up the immunization process. On top of that, she had to get more doses of the vaccine in other countries, which led to additional costs. A tourist from Germany also had her own experience with them. I didn't like Maya Bay, and I don't like monkeys. So, if you go to Railay, keep everything tightly closed and remember that they're cute only until the moment you realize your breakfast is gone. If you've heard of Chiang Mai and didn't pay much attention, you should know that you might be missing out on one of the most amazing places in Thailand. Unlike the southern beaches, this city in the north has impressive temples, mountains, and a much more laid-back vibe. A traveler from Denmark preferred this less touristy vibe. Northern Thailand is completely different. Chiang Mai has amazing temples and fewer tourists. Here, instead of beach parties, what you find are monks walking through the streets, night markets full of incredible food, and trails that lead to hidden waterfalls. If you're someone who prefers a more authentic experience, this might be the place for you. After hearing all these opinions, the question remains, what is the best place in Thailand? The answer is, it depends. What all these places have in common is that they're amazing in their own way. But it's always worth remembering, the experience you have depends on your travel style. If you arrive expecting an untouched paradise and find a bunch of tourists taking selfies, it can be frustrating. But if you're open to enjoying every moment, any place can become unforgettable. And I'm still going to talk about one of the most interesting and sometimes complicated parts of traveling. The cultural differences and how each tourist sees their own homeland after spending some time in Thailand. Because one thing is certain, after experiencing all of this, no one goes back home the same as when they arrived. If you're enjoying this tour through Thailand and already liking it, do this, share this video with that friend of yours who thinks they're going to come here and just live out a fairy tale. But there's a good chance they'll wake up the next day bargaining with a monkey to get their glasses back or trying to figure out, how did I end up in a ladyboy's room? That way, YouTube gets the message and spreads this awesome content to even more people. Sound good? We're in this together. Traveling to a place that's completely different from your own always brings a moment of reflection. At first, everything seems amazing, but after a while you start to notice the little differences and compare them to your own culture. Some of those comparisons are positive, others not so much. In Thailand, tourists discover things they never even thought about in their own countries. And after spending some time here, many start to question whether they really want to go back home. If there's one thing Europeans miss when they leave their own continent, it's the public healthcare system. For those who are used to accessible hospitals and doctor visits without having to sell a kidney, traveling to a place where every appointment can cost a fortune is a real wake-up call. A tourist from Finland commented on this. The best thing about Finland? Free healthcare. Here, if you need a hospital, you better hope you don't have to pay too much. A traveler from Denmark noticed the same thing. We pay a lot of taxes in Denmark, but at least the healthcare is excellent. After traveling, I saw that this really makes a difference. In other words, traveling makes you realize that your country's taxes might be high, but at least they make sure that a motorcycle accident won't leave you bankrupt. Meanwhile, in Brazil, you pay more taxes and get a pumpkin with the promise of steak. In Thailand, people live life in a more relaxed way. No one seems to be desperately rushing to work. No one seems to be constantly annoyed because the bus was 3 minutes late. Everything moves at a slower pace. Sometimes, it's even a bit too slow for people coming from countries where everything has to work right on time. A tourist from England noticed this difference right away. In Thailand, people seem happy all the time. In the UK, everyone is always complaining. A traveler from Norway also felt this contrast. People here are so open and friendly. In Norway, everyone is more reserved and talks less. Basically, if people in your country are always in a rush and look grumpy, Thailand will feel like a social experiment where happiness is mandatory. If there's one thing that impresses tourists in Thailand, it's how polite Thai people are. Here, people always say thank you, give little bows, and are incredibly kind, even when they have to give you bad news. A traveler from Sweden noticed the contrast. In Thailand, everyone is polite and bows when they say thank you. In Sweden, nobody even looks at you. Another tourist from the Netherlands noticed the same thing. Here, people make a point of being kind. In my country, nobody cares. After spending some time in Thailand, going back home and realizing that people don't even bother to respond to a simple thank you can be a tough pill to swallow. You know that moment when you pay $3 for an amazing plate of pad thai and realize that in your country, that amount barely buys you a coffee? That's right, many tourists leave Thailand completely frustrated with the cost of living in their own countries. A traveler from Belgium was surprised by the price differences. Eating in Thailand is so cheap that I don't even want to go back home anymore. A tourist from France was even more direct. In France, dinner can cost a fortune. Here, you can eat well and spend very little. The experience of paying so little for good meals makes a lot of people start to rethink the outrageous prices they accept to pay in their daily lives. If, on one hand, traffic in Thailand can be chaotic, on the other hand, it has something that many people notice after a while. Here, people might drive like crazy, but no one seems to be in a hurry to start a fight in traffic. A tourist from Switzerland noticed this difference right away. In Thailand, people drive like they're in a video game, but no one seems stressed out. In Switzerland, everyone is ready to argue in traffic. Another traveler from Germany noticed that the chaos here is, in a way, more peaceful. In my country, the rules are followed, but if someone makes a mistake, everyone gets angry. Here, the rules are flexible, but no one gets stressed out. Thailand proves that traffic can be chaotic and peaceful at the same time. Maybe that's a lesson many tourists would like to take home with them. After spending some time in Thailand, a lot of people start to rethink their lives back in their home country. Some miss the organization, the safety, or the quality public services, but many wonder if it wouldn't be better to trade all that for a simpler, less stressful life with cheap food. A traveler from Germany was very honest about it. I love my home, but I don't like the idea of going back to a 9-to-5 job. Another tourist from Lithuania was also thoughtful. It's cheaper here, people are happier, and the weather is better. Do I really want to go back home? The truth is, Thailand has that effect. It makes you look at your own life and wonder if you're not making things more complicated than they need to be. Now I'm going to talk about the best tips from travelers on how to make the most of Thailand and avoid unnecessary hassles. Because one thing's for sure, everyone who's been here has learned something, whether it was the easy way or the hard way. And speaking of stories, next I'm going to talk about the most bizarre, funny, and unusual situations that tourists have experienced in Thailand. Because one thing's for sure, nobody leaves this country without at least one memorable mishap to look back on later. If there's one thing every traveler gains after spending some time in Thailand, besides an uncontrollable addiction to pad thai and a newfound tolerance for spicy food, it's surreal stories. Thailand is the kind of place where, one day, you're on a paradise beach living the dream, and the next, you're negotiating a ransom with a monkey that stole your sunglasses. And since there's no better way to understand a country than through the experiences of those who've been there, we've gathered here the most unexpected, absurd, and hilarious stories that travelers have shared. Tuk-tuks in Thailand are a whole experience on their own. They're cheap, fast, and sometimes a real game of Russian roulette. An English tourist thought he was just getting a simple ride to a temple and ended up on an exclusive tour of jewelry and tailor shops he never asked for. The driver swore it was just a quick detour, but after 3 shops I realized I'd fallen for the classic tuk-tuk scam. Moral of the story, if the driver offers you an absurdly cheap price and says he'll take you on a special tour, you already know you'll end up spending the day looking at suits you never wanted to buy. Anyone who's ever visited Monkey Beach or any temple full of monkeys knows these animals have a master's degree in crimes of opportunity. They're fast, sneaky, and have absolutely no shame. A German tourist learned this the hard way. I spent 5 minutes looking at the sea, and when I turned around, my mango juice was in the hands of a monkey. He even looked at me and drank it right in front of me, without a hint of guilt. Tip for the uninitiated, don't walk around with visible food. Hold on tight to your belongings. If a monkey steals something from you, just accept the loss. There's no negotiating. In Thailand, entering temples means taking off your shoes. Simple, right? Well, for a French traveler, it turned out to be more complicated than it seemed. I left my shoes outside a temple, and when I came back, they were gone. I spent the rest of the day walking barefoot through the streets of Bangkok. Did someone take the shoes by mistake? Or was it an advanced scam by some Thai person selling new shoes on the corner? We'll never know. Tip: if your shoes are even a little bit nice, keep them in your backpack or at least leave them near other similar ones so they don't attract attention. Parties in Thailand are legendary, especially in places like Koh Phangan and Phuket. But for a Swedish traveler, the full moon party was a bit more intense than he expected. I woke up on a mattress in the sand, with a bucket of booze next to me and a dog sleeping at my feet. To this day, I have no idea how I got there. Conclusion: if you're going to a party in Thailand, make a plan to get back home before the night turns into a mystery novel. If you ask a Thai person if a dish is spicy and they say, just a little, get ready. What they consider mild can make even the toughest taste buds break out in a cold sweat. A Dutch traveler underestimated the power of Thai chili. I asked for a dish that wasn't too spicy, and after the first bite I was already sweating and wiping away tears. The waiter laughed and brought me some milk to help. The truth is, the chili here is no joke. It's best not to underestimate it. Massages in Thailand are cheap and an absolute must-try experience. But a Danish traveler learned that if something seems too good to be true, it's probably a scam. A woman approached me on the street and offered a free massage to try out a new technique. Naively, I accepted. 15 minutes later, she asked for 800 baht, and I had no idea how to say no. Tip: if someone offers you something for free in Thailand, you can already assume you'll end up paying for it. Taxis in Thailand can be a whole different challenge. Between drivers who refuse to turn on the meter and those who pretend not to understand where you want to go, there's always room for a crazy story. A Belgian traveler shared her confusion. I asked to go to the airport, and half an hour later I realized the driver was taking me to a market. He thought I wanted to do some shopping before my flight. Lesson of the day: always confirm your destination more than once and, if possible, keep Google Maps open. A lot of people travel to Thailand in search of the perfect photo, that cinematic shot on a paradise beach or at an impressive waterfall. But sometimes, the attempt to take an Instagram-worthy photo ends in disaster. A traveler from Norway shared her moment of glory. I tried to strike a pose on the edge of a boat to get an amazing photo. I slipped and fell straight into the water, phone and all. The whole boat laughed at me. Moral of the story: think twice before risking your dignity for a photo. In other words, in Thailand, you always come back with a good story. If there's one thing guaranteed for any tourist in Thailand, it's that no one leaves here without at least one story to tell. Whether it's a tuk-tuk that turned into a shopping tour, a thieving monkey, or a night out that ended with you meeting a ladyboy for no apparent reason, the stories are part of the experience. And that's what makes traveling to Thailand so unforgettable. You can plan everything down to the smallest detail, but something unexpected will always happen. And, in the end, it's those moments that make the trip worthwhile. Hey guys, leave the word Thailand in the comments. That really helps a lot. And since you made it this far, I'm sure you'll enjoy this video that's popping up on the screen with even more amazing stories. Thanks, everyone, and see you next time.